send you a link to the YouTube channel. Okay, so that's just to let you know you're being recorded with the terms of the privacy policy from Microsoft. So I'll just dismiss that. So let me run through a couple of slides. You'll be glad to know there's only 7. And then the rest of it is live walking and talking and chalking. So good morning, my name's Pete Gable from RPC, and I'm also going to introduce you to the lovely Rachel from Oracle.
Thank you very much.
So for those of you who know me, I work for RPC, and we are certified P6 specialists for training, consultancy, everything to do with Primavera and Unifier. So I'll let Rachel.
Thank you, Peter. So I'm Rachel Griffiths. I work for Oracle University as my title, I think, says Principal Sales Consultant. My job is to make sure that our customers get the best possible learning in alignment with their requirements. So I develop training needs analysis, and I will talk through your scope of requirements and those sorts of things to make sure that what we get for you and what we offer you is the best possible solution to suit your needs. I have a bit of a passion for learning, and I used to be a technical instructor for another software company. So I've been on both sides. I've received digital learning and I have delivered digital learning. So I can empathise for some of the poorer experiences you've had, but that won't be the case with ours, I'm sure.
Thank you, Rachel. So this is the agenda that we're going to cover. Roughly 30 minutes, and then there's time at the end for some questions, which we have had a couple of questions fed in, so we'll go through those at the end. So Rachel's going to take the first part of this webinar and go through the value of digital learning, the benefits, and an overview of the delivery platforms and the difference between training on demand and the learning subscription. And then on this particular webinar, I'm going to take a deeper dive into what P6 Professional and P6 Web can offer from the learning subscriptions. And the webinar on the 22nd of May will be doing a deeper dive into what Unifier has to offer. So that's the agenda. If you've got any questions, you can post them on the chat, and we'll pick those up at the end. Or if you do have a question as we're going through, please feel free, unmute and just fire the question in. If in between times you can leave your microphone muted, that would help any background noise, dogs barking and postman arriving and stuff like that, which I appreciate is going to happen. So that's the agenda. So I'm going to close down the PowerPoint. And I'm going to hand over to, oh, I should have hung up that call. I'm going to hand over to Rachel to go through your deck, Rachel.
Okay. Yep, let me just share my screen and I will do this. So let's see if I can make sure you can see. All right, let's see. Are you seeing my slide, or are you seeing everything?
We're seeing, you want to go to display settings there?
Oh yes, we had this last time, didn't we?
Just say,
that's what I want. There we are. That better?
That's better, thank you.
Super. Okay, so good morning everybody, thanks for joining. As Peter said, I'm really going to focus on the value of digital learning and the benefits particularly. So I thought about this, and actually quite a lot of benefits came to mind when I went through this, and I was actually having a conversation with a customer yesterday, and their first response when I showed them the platform was, this is great because I can go at my own pace. Now that is, if you were attending the previous webinar, you'll know it's something that I talked about previously. Everybody learns at a different pace, so this whole platform will allow you to personalize your learning experience. tailor it, if you will. You can learn specifics that are relevant to you. You don't need to take an entire course if that's not appropriate. You can jump your way through chapters. You can take one particular topic area and search for that and just do that if that's what you need to do. You don't have to sit through a 3 or a 5 day course when half of the content may not be relevant. So that's what I'm talking about when I say tailor your learning experience. The other benefits that you can see up here on the screen, so we talk about learning and practicing at any time. You're no longer restricted to only learning during classroom hours. This is deliverable 24/7, so you have access to this for 24/7. Depending on which option you might select, if it's a training on demand course, which I'm going to demonstrate shortly, you'd have access to that for 90 days. And that's, you know, weekends, bank holidays, you name it, anytime you want to learn, you can do that. We're not all morning people, and what we instructors used to call the graveyard shift after lunch, trying to learn after you've eaten lunch. It's not a great time to do it, but some people might be at their best at 10:30 at night. So the labs are available to you at any time when you've booked them. So, you know, this is what's important. All of our learning on demand and digital platform allows you to track your progress. So you can see exactly how much you've achieved. Your organisation can see how much you've achieved as well, to make sure that you're actually utilising the investment that they've made. The tile there that says solid foundation, I'm thinking about changing that, but basically what I'm talking about here is you're getting the exact same learning in a digital platform that you would receive if you went to a classroom. You don't lose any content or any experience by doing this digitally. In fact, you gain because you have access, as I said earlier, to the labs for a longer period of time. You're outside of that classroom experience. You've got them. You can log into them whenever you need to. You've also got the stay current option there, showing what I'm talking about here is if we are developing new content, that our digital content is pushed out automatically, certainly to our learning subscriptions. So if there is a change to any kind of topic, or there is a new development that is incorporated in the subscription that you might have purchased, that is automatically pushed out to you. You don't need to repurchase, relicense, or resubscribe. And the last one just there is the answers to questions, which I'll show you in a second when we do the demonstration. It's all about you still having access to an instructor. So when you're learning digitally, you don't want to feel like you're completely on your own, that you don't have somebody to ask those questions of that you would normally have in a classroom environment. So we have a messaging platform built in. It knows who you are, it knows which course you're doing, and you just type in your questions and they will be routed to a pool of appropriate instructors. So without further ado, I'm just going to click on for my next slide. So the options that we have basically are what's known as a training on demand, or a TOD, and that is an individual course. So a training on demand would be one course and you would have access to that for 90 days. Inside that 90 days, you would have access to a lab environment for 1 week, which you'd need to book in advance. But you've got that for 24/6, so you've got it for 6 full days. It's made available on a Monday morning and then ceases on the Saturday night. So you just need to plan in advance when you're planning to do all of your exercises and activities. The learning subscriptions that you can see, there's 2 different types really. We have a product, solution, or industry learning subscription. The Primavera ones form part of the construction and engineering industry, but they're also included in something called the unlimited product learning subscription. So a product subscription, I don't have my right teeth in, basically is a collection of all the training on demands relevant to a given product or a given solution or an industry, potentially, depending on which one you've chosen. And the unlimited product learning subscription, somebody asked me to count the number of courses in this the other day, and I got to 700 and actually lost count because I had to take a phone call. So there are over 700 courses that are available, which cover all Oracle products, from database, Java, middleware, applications, industry specifics, banking, retail, whatever you name it. They're all in there. It's a huge amount of content, and any of the subscriptions which Peter will be covering are available for 12 months. So I'm going to stop talking about subscriptions because that's Peter's area, and I'm going to see if my hyperlink still works, and hopefully this will fire off into dun, 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 my Primavera Google screen. So hopefully you're now looking at the Oracle University website, which says I'm going to go and look at the Primavera P6 Professionals Fundamentals Release 16. So Peter, I'm hoping you're going to correct me if that's not showing.
Yeah, no, that is showing. Thank you.
Super duper. So for an individual course, you can see we have a number of options, but the training on demand one is one we're going to look at here. So if I click on preview, it would actually just take me to this screen here. So you can see the lovely Peter with slightly more hair in that picture. And this is our training on demand format. So I'm going to talk you through the outline here and a little bit of navigation. So across the top here, you've got your access to a progress report. If you've got any certification relevant, that to be shown here. You also have the option to do feedback on the course, so you can give us any feedback that's relevant, and we do welcome feedback on your experience. Underneath that, obviously, you've got the main screen where your video and any slides presented during the course will be displayed. You will see here that there are subtitles showing, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. On the left-hand side is a list of all of the chapters or the topics that are going to be covered, and I might be on chapter 1 right now, but I don't have to start there, and we'll show that in a second and jump around as we need to. Underneath the chapters, you'll see we have the lab button, and this is where you would go to book your lab. If I click on that button, it will say, should you have any issues creating a lab or technical issues, we have a dedicated response team who will get back to you within an hour to make sure that you get the most access to that 6 days once you've asked for a lab to be set up. So it will ask you to book it a week in advance. So you can see I'm being offered a date for the week commencing May the 11th. As long as that gets booked by the end of today, I can book for next week. So I just submit that lab request, and an email will come back to me with my credentials. And once I've got that, I can then come back here to access my lab. It's very simple. You have access to the student guide. So this is your manuals in a PDF format. Now, in a training on demand course, so the one I'm talking about, the individual course, you would have access to download that. In a subscription, it's slightly different. And then underneath there, we've got the RC Instructor forum. So my single sign-on for some reason thinks I'm not found this morning. But you can see it's auto-populated the course that I'm doing. It's got a course code. This would be my name and email address. And then I just type away my questions in here. You can ask as many questions as you need to. You can ask them throughout the course, or you can build them all up on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever works best for you. Our instructors work to a 48-hour turnaround. Mostly you will get a response before that, but that's what we aim for. So that's your contact with your instructor. You can see at the top here that you know exactly how long you're going to be looking at video for. So we've got 9 hours and 14 minutes. If you wanted to share a specific page with somebody, you could do that. And this is your overall progress. So you can see I haven't actually started this course. When I press play, you won't hear the audio. So I'm going to put Peter on mute, and you'll see that the subtitles come up automatically in English. Now I am going to switch them off. I find that they just take up a little bit too much screen estate for my liking, so I switch them off. And I also can understand Peter's Yorkshire accent perfectly. Some of our instructors are obviously international, and some of them are heavily accented, so it is useful to have the subtitles. And if you're feeling optimistic, you could take the course in Japanese. Underneath the main video area, you've got something called your transcript. Now, this to me is one of the best parts of our digital platform. What you have is a word for word, and you'll see it highlighting as Peter's talking in blue, transcript of what's being said. So this removes the need for me to have the subtitles, because I could follow along underneath if I needed to. But better than that, if I pause the video, I can just read through a topic or go back to a topic and review it at my own pace without missing any of the video. I can just keep that and scroll through that as I need to. Or I could type for a particular word and say, I want to look for the word constraint. Now, apparently there are references to the word constraint. There's one under here, and there are two right at the end here. And this allows me to search the video. So if I click on that blue line, it will take me to that part of the video. And this saves me having to scroll backwards and forwards looking for a particular topic, phrase that I might be interested in. So I'm going to pause that now. What else do we need to talk about? So the entire course itself is searchable. So we could use the search at the top here, and you could search for a topic here, and only the chapters that were relevant to that search criteria would be shown. Now, that was me in project management lifecycle lesson 1. So just to prove the point, let's go down a bit and go to lesson 8. My mouse is a little bit hyperactive this morning, and we're going to assign calendars now. So you can see there is no mandatory requirement to go through this in any order. So you can learn the topics that are relevant to you at the time they're relevant to you and your projects. I think I may have gone through that in record time, Peter, but I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
So let's just stop that.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay. Thank you for that, Rachel. So that was the overview of the training on demand. So what I'm going to do now is just take control, and I'm going to go into a bit more detail about the Primavera learning subscriptions. So hopefully you can see my screen. Someone will give me a nod, I'm sure. Yeah, looks like you can. So simply go to Google, and I just typed in Oracle P6 learning subscription, and the top searches take me straight to the education.oracle.com page, and you can see here there's two different types of learning subscription. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful with the terminology that's used by Oracle University. Where it simply says Primavera P6, that they're talking about P6 EPPM, so that's the web course. And where it says P6 Professional, then that's the P6 Professional learning subscription. So there are actually two separate learning subscriptions, one for P6 EPPM, the web course, and one for P6 Professional, the professional course. So I've logged into these on a separate tab on here. And I've already started doing a bit of this training. You might be familiar with this screen. It looks fairly similar to the TOD screen, but on this screen here, it tells me everything that I'm going to cover on this course. I've got some tabs here that shows me the topics. And we've also split these learning subscriptions by job roles, so we can click on job roles. We've identified these the typical sort of job roles that may be used in Primavera. We can see the skills that you're going to learn. So this is the highlight of the topics. And then we've also got in a learning subscription what we call a learning path. And so we've split the courses into planning and scheduling, resource and cost management, project office, analytics, and I'm going to show you some additional extras as well. So that's the home page when you log in, and you can actually preview this page without signing into Oracle. So if you did click this link and you haven't got or don't want to set up an Oracle account, then you can do everything that I'm showing you here up to the point of actually using the video for learning. So if I first of all show you, this is the price for a learning subscription. It's £788 plus the dreaded VAT, and for this price you get that you get what I'm going to show you for a single user. But unlike a training on demand, which is 90 days, you get a 1 year access to this. And also, you'll notice when we dive, well, I'm going to do a deep dive now into the Primavera one. The training on demand is for a particular course. The learning subscription includes a number of courses. So I'll show you those in a second. Again, you'll get what do you get with when you've paid your £788? Well, you get access to the content, like I say, for 1 year. You get this Oracle expert instruction, and most of the videos have been recorded by my good self. I went to Oracle Reading, and it was all professionally recorded in a studio, and then obviously the transcripts were made. You get the ability to do the hands-on lab exercises, so you're able to schedule a lab to do the exercises. And again, the difference with this is you can have more than one go at doing the labs. You don't just get one hit at this. You get more chances to go onto the labs, and there's also the instructor Q&A. So if I just dive into the preview of this, so let's say you have just now purchased this P6 learning subscription. You would start on this page here, and again we've segmented this training. So you can either do this by role, if you're a program manager, a project manager, a planner, or executive. And then what will happen when you click on a particular role, the learning paths or the topics are filtered for. So we think these are the topics that we think you need in that particular role. You can also filter it by a particular closeout, a process group. So you might just be interested in the initiation of a project, or the execution, or the control, or the closeout. So again, you can click on any of these filters, and then you can show either a learning path or a particular course. So if I just deep dive a bit further, the brown tiles that you can see here, these are the learning paths. So they're in a pretty straightforward order here. So if you were starting from scratch, you would start with the planning and scheduling. Then you might want to do some resource and cost management. We haven't put anything in Project Office yet. We're building that content. There is some administration topics in the P6 Professional one. There's also a little bit about analytics. This was not one of the courses that I recorded. And then every now and then we are throwing in additional extras. So this goes back to one of the slides that Rachel mentioned, where we're keeping the content current. So although this might be a particular version of P6, we're going to put additional content in there that says this is what's new in the new version, or this is a little tip that, of course, I'm famous for my PG tips worldwide. Well, in my own lunchtime, I'm famous anyway. And we've recorded a number of additional extras, so some little tips and tricks that are not covered in the training. And we'll be adding those on a fairly frequent basis. So those are the learning paths. And then if we scroll down, then these are the actual courses. Now these are not in order, which is a bit strange. But if I was to start from the beginning, I would start with the planning and scheduling fundamentals course, and then I would do the execution course. So the planning and scheduling will take you through to the point where I've created a plan in P6. I've created the work breakdown structure. I've added activities and assigned relationships and scheduled it and that sort of thing. And then the scheduling one is now I've put all my plan together. What happens in the schedule? So we'll schedule it. And then in the advanced topics, we look at more of the advanced stuff, like moving it forward with resources and how to use global change and some of the advanced topics. And then there's 2 courses on actual resource and cost management as well. Now, so for those who are familiar with the standard, I'll call them standard P6 courses that we've been running for years, that, well, and I know people are fairly familiar with them. There was a 3-day fundamentals course, which was called course 102. That's how it was generally known in the industry. And course 102 is the planning and scheduling fundamentals and the execution and the resource and cost management. So that kind of is the 3 days, but we've broken it up into 3 separate courses. And then there was the 106P, which was the advanced topics course, and we've broken that into the advanced topics for resources and the planning and scheduling advanced topics. So if you like these 2 courses here, this is the combination of the advanced course. We've also got additional content for how to use Primavera Analytics, and there is also some content on how to administer P6 as well. So these courses are all included in your learning subscription. So whereas the TOD might be just the planning and scheduling fundamentals course, the learning subscription gives you all these courses. So effectively, the 102, the 106P, the admin course, and as a bonus, the analytics course as well. So if I just dive into one of the courses, let's say I want to look into more detail into the planning and scheduling course, you'll see it looks very familiar to the training on demand. In fact, it is the same content. We've just jigged it around a little bit by learning path and by role type and all that sort of thing. So very similar to how it was working, how Rachel explained how it was working. Down here, you get a list of the topics, so you don't have to follow it step by step. You might just be interested in, I need a refresher on how to create a work breakdown structure. So you would click on the video and then, hey, presto, here's that Pete Gable chap again. And he's going to start doing, I'll pause that. He's going to talk you through how to create a work breakdown structure in P6. Again, we've got all the transcript stuff going on exactly as Rachel highlighted earlier. And I really do like that. I'm with you on that, Rachel, searching for a particular phrase or word, and then it highlights in the timeline here where that word appears, so you can just jump straight to that part of the video. So you don't have to listen to all 6 minutes of waffle. You can jump straight to, did I really say waffle? But you know what I mean.
You did.
I never waffle, you know me. And anyone who's ever been on one of my training courses, or anyone who's delivered a training course for RPC, would know that we don't just read PowerPoint slides. You know, we are professional and certified to deliver this. We're not PowerPoint poisoning anybody in this. So we do try and add in a good best practice and good examples, and this is that sort of thing. So once you've finished watching the video of how to create a work breakdown structure, then we turn it over to you. We show you what we want you to do in the practice. So in the practice here, we're going to talk you through how to create a work breakdown structure. And this is following the lab that you can then access. When you request access to the lab, you can say, right, I want to go into this lesson. So you would have this screen open and it would show you that you need to open this particular project. And then when you're on here, you need to do the arrows to do your navigation. So you can follow the practice with the actual lab that you've requested, and you get all the files, all the projects, all the layouts that I walk you through, and then it's time for you to have a practice. So at the end of this video, I've been pretty standard on most of it. When you get to the end of the video, I'll say something like, right, now it's over to you to have a practice. At that point, you would then go into your lab that you've scheduled and you would do this lab. Yeah, and hopefully at the end of it, your screen would look something like my screen. As well as that, we've also got skill checks. So at the end of every lab, we've got a skill check, and these are the questions that were asked at the end of each module in P6, and you get a target to say you've got to answer 80% of the questions. It's taking a bit of time to load up. I might come back to that one in a second. Oh, there I was just coming up then as I moved away. Have another go at that. So the skill checks are all part of the process of doing this is the chalk and talk from the instructor, then the practice that you can do, and then you can have a go at the skill check. So the passing score for creating a WBS was 80% and I scored 100. I can review the quiz, and if I didn't get any questions right, it will tell me which questions I've got wrong. So I can walk through this, go next. Yeah, and it's a bit slower, this one, I must admit. It looks like it's slightly different. There we go. It tells you all about the key points of the skill check, and then it'll take me through and tell you which questions you've got right and which questions you've got wrong. So in this case, I did get them all right, as you'd expect me to. So if it was wrong, it would tell you it's wrong. And I did put some notes in as well as to if you did get a question wrong, why have you got the question wrong, just to give you a bit of a hint. You can also have a go at redoing the skill check to get your score up to 100%. So you don't have to, I did get 100% on this one, so that's fine. So these are all the topics in the planning and scheduling fundamentals, as I mentioned. There's even the case study. So again, on this, it's only a minute's worth of video, but on this I will talk through, this is what I want you to do on the case study. You would then open up your PDF manual, you'd go to your lab, and you would do the case study as it's...
Pete, sorry,
yes,
we're not seeing what you're describing at the moment.
You're not on this screen, no?
I'm just seeing the page showing the price and the preview button. I don't know if that's the same for everybody. There we are. Now I can see it.
Is it caught up now?
That's better.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying there, sorry, and thanks for telling me that, Rachel. You can also see this case study one. Yeah, that's what's on the screen now. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So it must have had a bit of lag when I went to the other screen, I think. When it comes to case studies, like I say, the video this is what the case study is about. You would then turn to the case study page in the manual. With the lab that you've scheduled, you then do the case study, and I'll give you some clues as to there is some answers that this is what the case study should have looked like. So in terms of the lab or requesting a lab, it's exactly the same as Rachel mentioned. You can schedule your lab, and so I want to do this, one day next week or the week after. So you pick your date and time. You'll submit your request. You'll get an email. These are the details. This is how to log in. Now, to do the labs, you don't need a Primavera license. It's obviously it's provided to you on the digital platform, and all the projects, all the layouts, everything that you need is in that lab, is in that instance of P6 that you get. So that's the lab. The student guides are here. So this is, again, we've portioned these up into different bits. So we're in this obviously in the execution bit. Didn't quite look right, that, but you get the manual just as if you'd been on the course, and you can download the manual. And there is also the Ask the Instructor as well. So if you've got a question, you can fire the question in. And as Rachel said, there's a pool of instructors for Primavera. I've had, in the last year or so, I've had maybe 5 or 6 questions. And typically the questions are, I've got to the end of the lab, but my screen is reporting it should be $56,000 and I'm only showing $100,000. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Or another question typically was, I didn't quite follow the instructor's comments about how to use a different duration type, and I've got this result instead of that. So I'll go back and I can provide further information. Now, sometimes the questions don't reach me. The questions are answered by the Oracle Primavera team. If they get stuck, then they send it direct onto me. So I don't get an instant email with ask the instructor. It goes through a process at the Oracle end, but you will get an answer to any of your questions. So that was a quick run through on the planning the P6 professional courses, and I'm going to do a similar sort of thing now, but on for P6 web, because there's an additional bit of content which you might be interested in. So there's a P6 learning subscription. So remember I said this P6 learning subscription, it doesn't say professional. So therefore we're talking about P6 web. Okay. So this is the P6 web training course, or P6 EPPM as we know it. Again, it's exactly the same sort of layout. So it tells you all about the learning subscription. We've split it by the topics and the job roles and the skills learned and the learning paths. It's the same price, and I'm going to show you which courses we get in a second. But for this price, you also get the certification exam to become a P6 certified specialist. And if I just click this link here, it'll tell me a bit more about this. And this is if you're interested in becoming a P6 certified implementation specialist. And you can take this exam. Now, normally it's done at a Pearson VUE testing centre, but in the current climate, Pearson VUE are now making this exam available so you can do it at home. It's 120 minutes. You get 84 questions. It's multiple choice, or pick the right answer, the nearest one. And what you'll notice here is normally it's £194. So on top of your learner subscription, if you then wanted to do this exam, you would normally have to pay an additional 194. But with the learner subscription for P6 Professional, it is actually included in the price. So that is bundled in. So for £788, you get all the courses, which I'm just going to show you, and you get the certification exam included in that subscription. You don't get this exam included with the P6 Professional. My advice is most of the questions are to do with P6 EPPM. In fact, if you follow this link, and you can do this on preview mode as well, you can download a student guide, and it tells you, it gives you a list of the sample questions that you're going to be asked in the exam. Most of those questions are either generic, so they could apply to both P6 Professional or P6 Web, but then there are some administration type questions which you would have probably needed to have done this particular course. So, whereas in P6 Professional, I said the standard courses were the 3-day 102 and the 2-day advanced courses. If I just click into preview for the P6 Web courses, again, we've set it out by learning paths, and we've also got all the different courses. It looks very much the same. And as if you know much about Primavera, you'll know that P6 EPPM can do very much the same as what P6 Professional can do. It's just on a different platform. It's web-based, not client-server based. You will notice there's extra topics for portfolios and dashboards. Again, we've got analytics in here, so there's some other topics as well. And the whole of the administration is in here as well. It's not showing us. Oh, yes, there it is. So there's 5 hours of P6 administration as well. And I do believe this topic here is the same one that you get in the P6 Professional one. So if it was only administration you wanted without doing P6 EPPM, then you could take that in the professional one. So it's the same set of courses. If I just dive into a particular course, let's pick portfolios and dashboards. You'll recognize it's very standard across the piece. So an introduction to portfolios, how to open them, viewing portfolio information, all the different lessons that you would expect on the. And this is the course 101 that we advertise. And so this is the fundamentals of P6 Web, and this is the portfolios and dashboards part of that course. Again, when you go into a video, it's going to look the same, except in the background, it's not going to be P6 Professional. It's going to show you P6 Web screens instead. Now, I know this, we're now on a later version of P6 Web. So at some point we will be recording the later versions of P6 Web. I think this goes back to version 16. I think we did this one on. So there's still quite a few companies on that version. We will be recording additional and more up-to-date material at a later point. Now, I did also mention, and I'm just conscious of the time, I did also mention that we're also providing additional content. Let's see if I can quickly go to that. Back into preview, and there was some additional content. Where was that? Can't find it now. Oh, here we are. Additional extras. Yeah, so if I go into additional extras, so this is the one where every 2 or 3 weeks we'll be adding additional content in here. So if I go into this lab, there's a couple of courses for how to create SQLite database, what's new in P6, how to manage remote projects. So additional content that isn't necessarily covered in the training courses, but is useful, more useful stuff to do with how to actually use P6 in a working environment. So that is my spiel finished. I think I covered everything there. Rachel might give me a nod on that.
Yeah, I think so. The learning paths.
Okay.
Did we see the learning paths? Sorry, I had to pop out for a second.
Yeah, showed the learning paths. So we did have some questions sent in previously. And did I see Andrew on here? I know you asked a question as well, Andrew. So I've added your.
I'm here, thank you.
Okay, I've added your question in here verbatim. So a couple of other questions we got. The training sessions seem to be focused on engineering construction. That is true. All the standard labs are all how to build a new office block. Yeah. But so what we're doing with the digital training is we're showing you how to use the application called Primavera P6. And we needed just some sample projects to work with, and construction was mainly used, so that's what we chose. However, if you are in the IT or utilities, oil and gas, or pharmaceutical, you can still do this course, but obviously the labs are not to do with that. And I think that this might lead us on to the point you're making as well, Andrew. I'll come back to that in a second. So although they are engineering construction focused, they are applicable to other industries, and I'm going to suggest something in a second or two how we're getting around this as well. The minimum IT requirements to attend the online training are basically a decent computer with Windows 10 and able to play a video, decent broadband connection. So very minimal IT. If you want to order a learning subscription, you can click the Buy Now button on the page when you've done the preview, or if you give me a call or send me an email or send an email to enquiries at, from time to time we do offer some discounts, so they're not always advertised. So the best thing to do is to give us a call. We can process the order on your behalf, and also Oracle then will give us some recognition that we've sold that particular learning subscription. Not that they don't give us recognition, they do, but it's more direct recognition. It normally takes from placing the order to, if you paid for it, it's normally 48 hours from start to finish, and then you can log in and you're away to go. And the last question that we've got, I'll come back, see if there's any more questions. I'll ask Russ in a second, or Rachel, see if there's any questions come through. So you've already done P6 fundamentals, Andrew, and you've had read-only access, and you want to redo fundamentals and then do the advanced. So preferably online. So what you would need there, sir, would be the P6, I'm guessing P6 Professional. You would need the P6 Learning subscription, and that would give you both the fundamentals and the advanced course in one learning subscription. And then you're interested in how to embed the learning with some post-course exercises. Well, with the lab, you can create your own exercises. So we're suggesting this is what you do, but there's nothing to stop you. I want to create a project for, what industry are you in, Andrew, just out of interest?
I was in nuclear power and I've just joined rail.
Right, so if you wanted to say create a rail project, yeah, and have a practice, obviously you don't get any tuition from us on that, but there's nothing to stop you creating a project of your own that doesn't match any of the labs. You can have a practice with doing that.
What, in the lab, you can do a practice, you
Yeah.
can create your own from scratch in the lab, yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. So we because in the one of the labs is create a new project. So you follow the script if you want to, or once you've done that, then you can say, right, I'll create another project, and I'll create another project. You know, you can have a go at doing that. Now, as a company, we recognised as well that the training was focused or is focused on engineering construction. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a very successful course, and we've run literally thousands of these courses, hundreds of courses to thousands of delegates, and they've all been very successful. But we have realised as time moves on that these courses need to be more industry specific, they need to be more role specific, and they need to be of shorter durations. So what we're working on at the moment, and I don't know if you follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter, but we're running a number of workshops, as we call them. And again, these are in collaboration with Oracle University, so they're backing us on this. And these workshops are industry focused and role specific. They're also a little bit cheaper, and they like I say, we're not running them digitally at the moment, but now we've been proving that we can run courses digitally. We've been doing that during this lockdown period, and that's been very successful. Thanks to Simon, one of our trainers as well. He's been doing a few of those courses. They've been very successful. We're hoping that we can start running these workshops digitally as well. So after this series of webinars looking at the online training for learning subscriptions and training on demand, we'll be pushing out a new set of webinars looking at these new workshops. And then that will hopefully answer that last point that you had on there, Andrew. Okay, so keep an eye out for that.
Will do.
So, did any other questions come through? I'll let you unmute, and if you want to fire any questions in, or did any questions come through on chat?
We had a couple on the chat. So we had somebody ask for a bit more information about the lab environment. So I've explained, basically the lab is a sandpit environment that is specific to the course that you're taking, and it's provided by Oracle, so you don't need any license, as you stated already, Peter, and it's there for you to basically get your hands dirty. So there was that one, and there was also a question about whether we book labs for a single exercise or whether you can do several exercises at once. It is entirely your decision how you process those. You have the access to the lab for Apologies for the Dog for 6 days at a time. So obviously the difference being in a subscription, you can make multiple bookings for a lab. You can't have 2 in the same week, but you can have multiple week after week after week after week. In the TOD or the training on demand, you would just get one attempt. So you'd get one block of 6 days, basically. So it takes a little bit more planning when you're doing the course on its own, as opposed to the learning subscription. There is one more. It's a subscription option aimed at an annual renewal so that you can keep up to date on the latest revisions of the P6 software. Possibly, yes. I mean, I couldn't speak to the Oracle strategy for subscription. I think part of it is to allow people to take a collection of learning at which is at a greater value, if you like. We've priced it in a way that way because we don't allow the download of the documents, so you don't actually ever own those documents. We do see a great deal of renewal for customers, but we quite often, I can't say whether or not that a brand new release would always go into the same one. It depends on how it had been structured in the past. So it may be that a new version would come out, but if it was pertinent to a same version, then it would be automatically pushed into your one. So you could just keep that one and it would continue to be renewed. But if there was a lot of changes, there may well be a new subscription.
Yeah. On that point, Rachel, for those who are familiar with P6 Professional, then the actual P6 Professional application hasn't changed that much from release to release. And so even though the training on the learning subscription might be released 16 and your company might be on 18, from a P6 professional point of view, you'd be quite capable of using the 16 training. There's hardly any differences between. One of the things we'll be doing is on that what's new, I'm showing on the additional content, I'm showing you what are the changes from one version to another. From a P6 Pro side, there are hardly any changes. Most of the R&D from Oracle has gone into P6 Web, P6 ePPM. So at some point, I do think we would need to re-record that whole learning subscription on a later version and then make that available as a learning subscription. But in the meantime, all we can do is tell you what's new and how it might look slightly different. So that was my 2 penneth there.
All right, what's the most take-up? Is it on the professional or the web-based?
Right, good question. Professional is definitely the biggest take-up. What we find is, although when we sell the product, or either us or Oracle do any sales to a customer, they sell it showing P6 Web, P6 ePPM. But when it gets into the planner's hands, they go, "Oh, I'm not using that old web tool. I want to use P6 Professional." And so Oracle, I think at some point thought, we can ditch P6 Professional, but the backlash would be huge. They will never stop selling or supporting P6 Professional. However, I believe P6 Web now, certainly the latest releases 19 and 20, and the big companies like Rolls-Royce, for example. I know Trevor, you've worked there with those guys. That is the take-up of big companies. But for the training for those guys, we did customized training for those guys. So yeah, simple answer to your question is the biggest take-up is within P6 Professional, and it's not so version critical if the learning subscription is a couple of versions behind. But P6 Web, not the biggest take-up, but it definitely is a difference in how the screens look and behave and where things are found on the screens. Did that answer your question there?
Yeah, and is the preference because of the speed?
Do you know, I wish I knew what the answer was, because personally, I'm a P6 Web fan, and if if you've got a reliable internet connection, that gets away the speed. Because it is quite quick. The infrastructure that Oracle hosts this on has recently been upgraded, I would say, in the last 8 months. I've done a couple of client implementations of P6 Web, release 20 actually, and it's as quick as, if not as quick as P6 Professional. But still my clients say, okay, I can see P6 Web, but you know what? I want to use P6 Professional. That's what they're used to. But speed is an issue, and if some big companies don't have the necessary bandwidth on their internet, then it can be quite slow. Previous versions of P6 Web were clunky. I think Trevor might be nodding because we went through some pain at Rolls-Royce with older versions and Java giving issues. But the new versions of P6 Web are now all HTML5. I think the screens are nice and streamlined. It's really quick response. And if you're interested, I can give you I can show you, do a little demo of both of those if you wish.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So just for a sense check then, I'm seeing a subscription price for a year to learn fundamentals and advanced with plenty of, experiential learning by going in the lab and dabbling about for £788 plus VAT.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing on the web, I've had a price of 2,565 for the 2 courses by a supplier. What am I missing? Why is it so cheap?
Well,
one of the differences is you cannot download the manuals, so that's quite a big difference. In the TODs, you get to download the materials.
Right, so that's the biggest thing. So intellectual properties.
Intellectual property, the pricing is related to hugely, yes.
Okay.
Also, if you think about it, it's we've recorded it once and we can sell it many times.
Yeah.
So we can, once we've done the recording, which we didn't get paid for, which we did on Oracle's behalf as a platinum partner. We were quite more than happy to do that. We record it once, we can sell it many times. So from a commercial point of view, it made sense to us. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I'm interested.
Oh, good.
I'll drop you a note, Peter, after this, but I'm interested, definitely. It's good value.
So I've got a final slide here to thank you for attending. I do hope you all found it useful. I'm going to press the stop recording button in a minute, and we'll send you a link to the recording. If you want to get in touch with us at any time, generally we're working mornings at the moment due to the lockdown. But the office phone is on a hunt group. So if you phone the office, it'll come through to me next, and then it goes through to Tina and technical support. You can look at everything on our website. You can send an email to inquiries@, and that'll find me and Russell and the admin team as well. So that's how to get in touch with us. Pick up the phone, send us an email, and we're here for you.
Brilliant.
Okay. So, any other questions before we go? No. Okay, I'll take that as a no. And I'm going to hit the stop button. And thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete. I'll give you a call.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah. Thank you.